George Osborne, that man who so fatally misjudged the nation's mood by announcing his devotion to the European nightmare, staked his political career on it, got it wrong. We voted to leave. He had to quit, and he now does about 7,000 different jobs all over the country. So he's gone, but he's predicting now that we could effectively be back in the EU within 20 years because leaving Europe has done so much harm to our economy. Meanwhile, the Shadow Justice Minister, the Labour MP, Anna McMorrin, she says that Labour should renegotiate its current deal, should get back into the single market with a view to fully rejoining the EU. So yesterday's Rwandan flight decision was a tremendous encouragement to the Remainers who still refuse to accept the democratic decision of this nation to leave the EU.
Yeah, George Osborne says we'll be back in 20 years. That's if the EU even exists in 20 years. I don't think it will, certainly not in the form that it currently exists, because if it does, then that will be a shocking lack of growth for an organisation which desperately needs to reform itself or go bust, effectively. But the reason the economy is in a shambles isn't because of Brexit, it's because of lockdown. Let's face it, we've had 2 years of the economy completely shut down. How can you turn around and then blame that on Brexit? It's absolutely farcical.
Well, I think George is just desperate to say he was right all along. But if you're watching, George, we still think you were wrong all along, and that's why you're not in politics anymore. What about the Labour Party? This Shadow Justice Minister, Anne McMorrin, no, me neither, I've never heard of her, but there she is, revealing really what we always knew about the Labour Party, that deep down all they want to do is rejoin the EU.
Well, it's incredible how they always seem to fumble the bag. You know, every time Boris looks like he's in a weak position, you know, this thing, for example, Rwanda flight failing, Labour come out and do his work for him. They go, well, do you know what we're going to do? We're going to rejoin the EU. And suddenly everyone gathers back around Boris and goes, oh, well, we can't risk that. We better get behind him. Even if he isn't very good, at least he's not going to take us back into the EU.
Yeah, I should get you on the basic point. Well, I mean, you and I were laughing about it in the days leading up to that final decision by the European Court of Human Rights. You know, we always joked that this flight will never get off the ground. But I must admit, I'd sort of forgotten about Europe. I know if anyone is there wishing to preach to me, I absolutely know, like everyone else knows, the European Court of Human Rights, the Convention on Human Rights, has got nothing to do with the EU. It's not the point. What we were shocked to discover was that after 3 judges in a number of legal challenges in the British courts, in the British High Court, decided that that flight was legal and clear for takeoff. The issue went to Europe, and a European court, a foreign judge, a taxi rank judge on the end of a phone who didn't even know the details of the case, was able to say, oh no, it can't take off. So in the end, Europe made our decision for us, and we had no say in the matter.
Well, look, it's the 2 things I always say on your show. Whenever you ask me about the migrant stuff, how do we solve it? I say, withdraw from the ECHR and scrap the Human Rights Act. Those are the 2 legislative barriers that exist to prevent us from actually doing anything about this. And if the government come out and say, we've got this new plan that we've come up with, which is going to solve it, and it's not scrapping the HRA and withdrawing from the ECHR, then it's a distraction tactic. They aren't being serious about solving the issue, because they know, as well as we know, that without scrapping those 2 things, you can't do anything meaningful on migration. However, they spent £120 million of taxpayer money just on establishing the partnership with Rwanda, which basically means Boris gave 120 million to Rwanda, knowing full well that we wouldn't be able to send any migrants there.
You can add £500,000 to that for the cost of the plane sitting there on that runway down near Salisbury that we all knew would never take off. £500,000. I mean, I know in the great scheme of things it's not that much, but it's quite a lot of money to spend on what amounted to a political gesture. Boris and Pretty knew that plane wasn't going to take off, didn't they?
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a lot of money in terms of government, but you give that money to some people struggling with their heating this winter or with feeding their kids throughout the entire year, and that kind of money actually could be put to good use. It's disgusting the way that the government feel that they can waste public money. It wouldn't happen in the private sector in the same way. There would be, people would be fired if they lost 120 0.05 million in that way.